Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Nate, and we are today going to be reviewing this interaction between the left-wing members of the Breakfast Club, who are extremely left-wing. They claim that there's systematic racism, black people are being oppressed. Anytime something happens, it's about racism. And they have Larry Elders on. Now, Larry Elders is saying, hey, that myth of systematic racism is BS. And they're going to now have a full discussion on it. Now, I have to say this. I am actually happy that they invite conservatives onto the show to discuss these ideas, because the only way that you can really show people that one side doesn't know what they're talking about or is being unreasonable is to have them challenge your views. Like, here's my views, challenge them, show me where I'm wrong. And a lot of times I think we all get into our little echo chambers where we only hear the points of view that we like or we want to hear, but we don't hear anyone challenging those points of view. So I think Larry Elder's going on this show and saying, hey, here's my point of view, this is why I think the way it is, and tell me where I'm wrong. I think this is what the First Amendment freedom is about. This is what debate is about. And now I think we're starting to live in a world where if you say something that someone doesn't like, you're labeled as a racist, sexist, and all this other stuff, versus, hey, this is the reason why I think your ideas are wrong. Maybe your facts are not correct, or maybe the assumption that you're making doesn't make sense in a larger context. So, that is fulfilling debate, and it helps us all grow versus just screaming at each other. So here's a part of this interaction. This interaction is an hour long, and I suggest everybody go watch it because I think it's fascinating. But this interaction was an hour long, and in this particular part, Larry Elders is going to talk about systematic racism. And Larry's position, because we can't see the whole hour, but Larry's position is that systematic racism was real back in the 60s, 70s, maybe even 80s and 90s, right? There was systematic racism back then. But today, there is no systematic racism in 2023. And he points to things like, having a black president, and all these other things that have occurred over this particular time frame, right? We had a black president, and most of the largest cities in America are run by black people, and black people are in charge of a lot of these systems that are in place. So the Breakfast Club wants their audience and wants us all to believe that systematic racism is real, it's a problem, and that it needs to be stopped. So this is where this interaction is going to kind of come to a head. So this woman who you see on screen is now going to challenge Larry Elder's assumption that there is no systematic racism by essentially claiming that black people don't run anything, and because black people don't run anything, that proves that there is systematic racism. They don't run any of the systems. So let me let you hear what she's going to say, and then we'll respond as the video goes forward. So check this out.
We're agreeing. We're agreeing. They're two different things. We're agreeing.
No, we're agreeing to two different things. We're not agreeing that there's not systematic racism, because we're not in charge of the system, sir. In case you
all right.
Black people have never been in charge of any system.
Well,
we're not
actually, we have been. Take Baltimore.
No, we've never been in charge of.
May I finish?
Tell me, what financial system are black people in charge of? What healthcare system are black people in charge of? What government system are black people in charge of?
I'm about ready to tell you.
What prison system are black people in charge?
I'm about ready to tell.
So I'm stopping it here because the question is very specific, right? What system are black people in charge of? Then she started listing out healthcare systems, governmental systems. What system are black people in charge of? Now, if we just want to be fair, if you say, well, systems that are government or what governmental systems are black people in charge of, generally, to be put in charge of those systems, you're elected, right? You're either elected president, you're elected mayor, you're elected governor, and that elected person is put in charge of those systems. So my answer, and I think the appropriate response is there are cities like Baltimore, Chicago, New York, where they have black mayors, and those black people are in charge of the systems. The black police commissioner and the black corrections commissioner, because there's a person who's in charge of the jails. That person is black in Baltimore. So you do have black people who are controlling all of these different governmental systems and other systems, right? So to say that black people have never been in charge of any of these systems, that just seems to be inaccurate. Matter of fact, the president of the United States, who was black, was in charge of 1/3 of the government, right? The president's in charge of the executive branch. That whole system they're in charge of. So to say that black people have never been in charge of any system in the government, that just doesn't seem accurate. It just doesn't seem. So let's continue on.
I'm not talking about mayors. I already know that talking point, sir. I go on Fox News all the time as well. So let's not go there with that. I said, what system have we created? Have we implemented that we have been in charge of? Name one.
All right. So I'm just going to say, she's dishonestly tried to adjust the question because I think she realized the answer to her question was very simple. Right. And you could just start reeling them off. Well, the governor of this state who happened to be black was this. The president was black. All these cities where the mayors are black. Right. So you can easily point out where black people are in charge of the systems. Like, for instance, the DA in Georgia, she's black. She's in charge of that prosecution system. And the DA in New York, Manhattan, is black. Right. So she knows that she's been caught. Right. That question doesn't have anything to do with systematic racism because you have all these systems, these governmental systems, who black people are in charge of. So I understand what she's trying to limit it. Well, I'm not talking about mayors. Well, then who else would be in charge of governmental systems? Those are the people in charge, the governors, the mayors, the presidents, right? It's simple. They're elected, they're put in charge, and they run those systems. Maybe, again, if you disagree with me, let me know in the comment section.
Is this why you don't like talking to black women, Larry Elder?
Wow.
Now, Charlemagne, because I think he's trying to save her from embarrassment because everyone knows the answer's coming, but people just don't want to let, I think, Larry just crush her with this point. So that's like, this is why you don't like talking to black women. It's like, where did that even come from, right? So it's weird because if you're having a serious conversation and you're trying to discuss a point with people, and then him throwing out this random question about him, it's like, really? But let's see how Larry tackles this. Let's see how Larry Elders tackles this.
Baltimore. Freddie Gray a few years ago.
No. That's mayors. I'm not talking. I said system.
I'm
Remember,
going to tell you
system.
about this system if you allow me to finish my point.
I'm not talking about somebody elected and doing a job.
Because now she knows he's about to crush her. He's about to crush her whole point. But now, listen, she's going to now try to stop him from saying what he's saying to crush her point because she knows it's coming. She knows it's coming. And listen to why she keeps interrupting. Listen to this is why she's going to keep interrupting. Listen to this. I'm going to rewind it just 10 seconds and watch when she breaks in and says, I'm not talking about people who are elected. Well, you just said people who are in charge of the governmental systems, and the people who are in charge of governmental systems here in a democracy in the United States are the people who are elected. So now you're saying who's in charge of the system, but don't tell me people who are elected. Then who are we talking about then? Who's in charge of governmental systems who are not elected, right? You're talking about communist China, something like that. Here, the people who are in charge of governmental systems are elected. Listen to it again.
I'm going to tell you about this system if you allow me to finish my point.
I'm not talking about somebody elected and doing a job, sir. I asked what system did we create?
Now again, what system we're in charge with? Now it's what system did we create? You see, the dishonesty in her argument is apparent because she's not trying to hear the response. She's not trying to make any type of cogent point. She's just trying to win an argument with Larry Elders, and she doesn't give a damn what his answer is, right? Because she knows her question is BS. And she knows that the response is simple, but she's so desperate to just have him say, I just don't know, instead of answering the question she asked. Now she's asking a totally different question. What system will we create? That's totally different than what system or have we been in charge of, right? That's a totally different question.
Okay, let's talk about the system of one of the largest. Thank you.
Then.
One of the systems of one of the largest cities in America, Baltimore. Freddie Gray died in police custody a few years ago. The mayor was black. The head of the police department was black. Number two,
it's not in charge of the system.
You see, desperate because that's the correct answer. And people, at least just please tell me where I'm wrong in the comment section. The question originally was, what governmental system, financial system, what system have black people been in charge of, right? What governmental system? Specifically, she said governmental system. So he's saying, okay, let me tell you of the governmental systems that black people have been in charge of or are in charge of right now. And who in America, since we are a democracy, the people who are in charge of governmental systems are people who are elected to those positions, right? Mayors, governors, presidents, those people are elected to those positions. So if you say, I don't want to don't tell me about who's elected to the positions, then what could you even answer? Because the only way you can get those positions, you understand, the only way you can become the person who runs the system is to get elected to that position. So she's essentially asking a nonsense question that has no answer to it.
Go ahead.
Number two person in charge of the police department was black. All of city council.
You see, the police department, right? The person who's in charge of the police department still not in charge of the system. Well, who's in charge of the police department then, right? Again, she's responding like this because it's not for Larry Elders. She's trying to save face for the people who are listening to the radio show, to try to hopefully fool them into thinking that Larry's not answering the question that she's asking. But he really is answering the question.
Council, Democrats, majority black.
Still not in charge of the system.
Wow.
You see? She's becoming so dishonest where she can't even let him finish his point, because she knows if he's able to finish his point, it's going to easily show that what she was saying not only is inaccurate, but is unreasonable.
6 officers charged, 3 of them were black. A judge before whom 2 of the officers tried their case found him not guilty was black.
Still not in charge of the system.
The city intendant of public schools was black. The county superintendent of public schools was black. The attorney general at the time, Loretta Lynch, is black, as was the president of the United States, was black. And yet,
still not in charge of the system.
And she's now still not in charge of the system. Think about this, people. Just let's think about this. The president is not in charge of the system. The attorney general is not in charge of the system. The mayor is not in charge of the system. The system in Baltimore, right? The governmental system in Baltimore. The city council, who's black, is not in charge of the system in that city. The police commissioner, the mayor, the school superintendent, none of those people are in charge of those systems. And her specific question is, what black people are in charge of governmental systems? And at the time, he's like Barack Obama. Oh, well, it's not the system. So what is she talking about? Right now, again, maybe you guys need to help me out in the comment section. I don't even understand what is she talking about. Hopefully she'll elaborate. This is what I mean by the system, or, but she's not. And then she's deceptively trying to change the question in mid-question. Well, I mean, who created the system? Well, then we're talking about the founders of the country, right? We're talking about the founders of the country. Those are the people who created the system. So they're white. So we got to go back 200 years. But your question was who runs the system, and have there ever been any black people who run the system? And those black people, yeah, there are black people running the system now.
I asked you a simple question, sir.
Well, Wanda Sykes said when Barack Obama got elected, how are you going to complain about the man when you are the man? Now, from the president to the attorney general to the state attorney to the mayor to the head of the police department to the commissions of the schools in the city and in the county to the majority of city council in that city, all of them are black. And you're still saying that we don't run anything?
So who's in charge of the
system?
No.
I said who created the system. I didn't say we didn't run anything.
Now it's who created the system. You see? Totally dishonest, right? Because even Charlemagne is like, all right, so who runs the system, right? He just read off all the names of people who run the system. Who are you talking about? Charlemagne is like, who are you talking about? He seems to be right to me. And she's like, oh, no. I know. Who created the system? How can you argue with someone who is so dishonest like this? I give Larry credit. He went on there and she's just look over here in the corner. Or if you look at the upper right hand corner, look at my man DJ Envy. He's got his fan. It's like, this is embarrassing. It's embarrassing. Even Charlemagne he had to wake up and was like, what are you talking about? This is crazy. Thank you for the people who sent me this. Thank you so much, because it's insane.
I challenge a lot of those black leaders, by the way. I said when we talk about the system, what black people have been in charge of any system. I'm not talking about a position. I'm not talking about a mayor. You know good and well what I'm talking about.
You're basically saying that they're black faces that are still in those positions, but they're still being part of the system.
Similar to you, Mr. Elder. You're a black face in a position in the conservative movement. They're just the same. They're just on the other side. I'm talking about
So then when Martin Luther King said in 1960,
what is she talking about? What is she talking about? What is she talking about? Now, all the people who are in charge of the system are not really in charge of the system. So who's in charge of the system? It's some faceless, nameless person that we can't identify, that we must assume is white. So this is I don't know how Larry did it. This is very frustrating.
66, I believe there could be a black president in about 40 years' time, then it really doesn't matter whether there's one or isn't one, because nothing changes. He was naive.
The system also
then.
killed him as well. Well, we know that the FBI and the CIA also killed him. That system. You realize that, correct?
Wow. An individual killed him.
Right. That was also a part of COINTELPRO through the system. Correct?
Yeah. Not correct.
COINTELPRO.
Not correct.
This woman looks like a fool. I'm sorry. She looks like an absolute fool. And Larry's destroying her. And you're seeing it yourself. She doesn't give a damn about the facts. Doesn't give a damn about what's actually being said. Doesn't give a damn about he's answered her question. Matter of fact, the other hosts don't even know what she's talking about at this point. And now she's just so desperate to get any type of win. No, the system killed him. He's like, no, an individual killed him. No, it's the system. It's the system. Okay. And they call the conservatives the conspiracy theorists.
He was
so
killed.
The FBI didn't have anything to do with it. The CIA didn't have anything to do with
J.
it.
Edgar Hoover was definitely on Martin's ass. Like, come on.
I didn't say he wasn't. Oh. Robert Kennedy is the one that approved the wiretaps. But to say that the FBI killed him, I mean, what's your evidence of that? That's a pretty serious charge.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Pretty serious charge. Yeah. Serious charge that requires serious evidence.
Even Charlotte had to go, yeah. Because she's like FBI, the FBI, CIA killed him. It was like Larry's like, hold on, what's your evidence of that? What's a pretty serious charge? And even Charlamagne's like, yeah, you're right. And she's there now she's watch. She's got to squirm and she's look. This is why people don't take these things seriously anymore, because these left-wing proponents don't have any facts and are now essentially just sitting here spouting nonsense. And when challenged with the facts, they can't accept it. She can't just accept, okay, yeah, you're right. Black people do run a lot of the systems and have run a lot of the systems, right? Because she knows her entire argument about the system being systematically racist is destroyed. It's totally destroyed if she accepts that fact. So she can't accept it even with the facts and evidence that are objectively true and are factually right there, which is shameful.
Yeah.
What is your enforcement law proposal?
It is to allow states to set up commissions of retired judges and retired DAs.
All right, so you guys can go watch the rest of that interaction, but I'm just going to say it. I looking at that, it really, 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 I think, drives home the point that I think sometimes, even when presented with the absolute facts of the situation, and this woman's point being essentially pushing, but like he's pushing back. He's like, no, here is, you're asking me who's in charge of the system, or have black people ever been in charge of any system? Here it is. I'll show you. Here let's run them off. And she was so apparently it's the height of dishonesty. So she's changing the question, she's denying the facts, and then at the end, even her co-hosts are like, what are you even talking about? Because what you're saying doesn't make sense in reality. Now, I give Larry some credit. He went through this for an hour, and as you can see, sometimes he unfortunately wasn't talking to her, because I don't think there's anything he could have said, any fact that he could have brought up that destroys her whole argument, and she would just realize that she was just wrong. He's essentially trying to talk to the audience and show how unreasonable this person is being, because she's telling you the systematic racism because essentially no black people run the system. He's saying, okay, here's all the systems that the black people run, the governmental systems that you asked specifically about, and she's denying the facts and reality, even to the point where even her co-hosts are like, what the hell are you talking about? You just keep saying no, but what he's saying sounds reasonable. Let me know how you feel in the comment section about this back and forth. And let me know if you think my opinion is wrong, because I think Larry Elder is correct. We don't live in 1960s Alabama. We don't live in 1980s Alabama. We don't live in 1990s Alabama. We live in 2023. And I think right now, if you are alive as a black person, as an LGBTQ plus person, as in any marginalized group, this is the best time for you to be alive, because you have the most opportunity, the most freedom, the most equality we've ever had as a nation. You have at this moment, and every day it gets better. So why deny that this is the best time to be alive as a black person in this country ever. Not saying that we've gone all the way, right? We've eviscerated racism, and it's nowhere ever, right? But to not acknowledge that this is not the systematic racism, or the reasons why you claim there's systematic racism is not the case. It's just, it's shameful. But hopefully some people who are listening to this conversation understand what Larry was trying to convey and understand the truth and facts about this particular situation. So let me know in the comment section. Do you think there's still systematic racism after this interaction? You know, who knows? But at the end of the day, I don't believe there is today that we're living in a time where there is systematic racism. I think there's systematic stupidity. The systematic part is people not wanting to live in reality of today and wanting to pretend that we still live in the reality of the Jim Crow era. But that's just my opinion. Let me know how you feel. My name is Nate the Lawyer. I'm out of here. Peace.